Hello, everybody. Uh, Center of the room? Okay. Have you all had intellectual burnout already? Or are you able to listen to a few more minutes of talking? And I want to make very clear, I am not an expert apologist like Mr. George Vasilios. And apologetics is something I've just been involved in and out as a result of being Christian, because I think we're all need to be in apologetics a little bit. And the reason I say I'm not an expert apologist is because an expert apologist needs to have an answer to every single question, which Mr. George has. You ask him anything, he knows the answer, and he gives it to you. For me, at least 50% of the questions they're asking me, I tell the person in front of me, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I don't know. And the reason I say that is because sometimes there are questions that are put to you that you don't know the answer. And if I try to pretend I know the answer, and here's the answer, and here's point A and point B and point C and D all the way to Z, and it's not convincing or doesn't come from, a genuine sense of this is the truth, the person in front of me will detect it. Because people who have questions have kind of like a radar, or they have a sense or a detective device in them for truth and error and for sincerity and insincerity. This is a part that God has built into us. When you're talking to someone, you know if the person answering you is speaking from his heart, or he's convinced, or if he's just, giving you a kalam. So that's why I say, you can ask me anything you want, but it's very likely I won't know the answer. And this is supposed to be a workshop instead of a lecture. And in a workshop, what you do is you're supposed to sharpen your skills. Like if we were learning how to paint, you would have, lectures from Abuna and Mr. George about painting, about the theory, the philosophy. And the workshop, we would sit down with our canvases and our paintbrushes and mix the colors and start painting. And that would be a workshop. But this is mainly an intellectual and spiritual topic. So we don't have anything physical to do in this workshop. It is all, thinking and conversing. So my main job is to bring up 2 or 3 points for you to think about and to discuss with me and see if we can come up with any answers together, because I don't have a lot of time, and I think by now you're running low on attention because you maybe all need a break. So my main question for this workshop is, does the universe have meaning? Does the universe have meaning? Or another way to put it, is there purpose in the universe? Can I get any takers? Anybody have any ideas or suggestions for me? Is there meaning in the universe? The main objections of atheists is that, well, of course there's no meaning in the universe. The universe came about by 1 out of a millionth chance, and we all happen to be here. And lucky for us, we've evolved, and evolution was a purposeless and meaningless process. And we are all here basically very lucky mistakes and very interesting mistakes, and we are all complicated mistakes. And I am basically just a group of atoms. I'm not really a soul. I'm not really a person. All of this is just illusion. Love is an illusion. Joy is just an illusion. All these things are false. And what they say is, what we do is create purpose for ourselves. Since there is no purpose in the universe, we have to create purpose. So what would you say to something like that? What would you say? If someone told you meaning, when you say this has a lot of meaning, or this is meaningful, and they say that's a bunch of garbage. Yes?
I think my response to that would be, even if they say, our point here is to create purpose for ourselves. Well, if you create purpose for yourself, you have a lifetime, and then it passes. So what's the point? I mean, there has to be some other purpose afterwards, right? Or else you just worked and worked and worked and worked and then passed. So, I mean, I think my response to that would be, okay, what is the point of creating purpose for yourself if it's going to pass? If there's nothing afterwards, if that's what you think.
Okay, very good. They would say, although they would say, how can you only find purpose in life if there's something afterwards? Is there no meaning in life as it is now? What would you say? And you gave a very good answer, but they would give a very sharp objection. They'll say, okay, what is the meaning of life today? What is the purpose of the universe today? Was there another hand up?
I was actually, my imply to that, I think, going back to George asking another question, well, if there's no purpose, then why don't you just lock yourself up in a room and just die?
Very good.
Literally, I mean, why are you even out there? Why are you getting dressed? Why are you buying clothes? Why are you buying food?
Exactly. If there's no purpose, why don't you just commit suicide?
Exactly.
Which is what many existentialists say, like John Paul Sartre. He says, suicide is the most logical conclusion to life if there's no meaning in it. But then they say, well, if there's no real meaning, we create meaning for ourselves. We just create it, Like there was no technology at one point, but we needed technology, so we used our brains and created it, and now here it is. So why can't we just create meaning? What do you think? I know I'm bashing you guys. I'm not making it easy on you. But okay, for what purpose do you create meaning? They would say, so that we at least make life bearable. So that we don't feel that we're just piles of carbon and water walking around without any purpose. Why do they say that? Just I want to feel happy. So I create meaning, but I have to realize it's an illusion. Basically what they're saying is, what you have to do, like Mr. George was saying, you have to expose the logical fallacy in their thinking. So you have to push that kind of thinking to the to its logical end. So for example, you say, and for example, I love the writer Charles Dickens. He's a British author, and his novels just fill me with joy. I sit and read them, and I can't think of any time I'm happier except when I'm in church. So the Charles Dickens novels are very meaningful for me. And his characters, when they live life, they reveal life and the mysteries of life. What the atheist is saying is that Charles Dickens' novels is equivalent to a bunch of scribble on a book. For example, when I was 5 or 6 years old, I first learned how to take a pen and uncover it and scribble things. So the first thing I found was my dad's Bible. So I grabbed the Bible, I opened it, started scribbling all over Genesis. And then I found his medical books, so I started pulling them down, opening it, and I was so happy with my new talents. Scribble, scribble, all over the place. And he never told me about it till I found, I was looking at his books years later, and I opened it. I said, hey, Bo, what is the scribble? What did you do? He said, Ya Habibi, that was you. I said, what? Me? He said, hey, when you're 5 or 6 years old, you didn't understand. My scribble had no meaning to it. So the fallacy of what they say is that a novel by Charles Dickens is equal to my scribble. And basically they're saying the only reason Charles Dickens' books have any meaning is because there's something like a reflection in my mind. I think, oh, these books have meaning, so I'm projecting my artificial idea onto the book. Do you get what I'm saying? Maybe it's a little difficult. Or I would tell them, you don't like to read books? Okay, how about music? You like Beethoven? You like his symphonies? You're saying a symphony by Beethoven with all the rhythm, with all the pattern and the melody is equal to the screaming of a baboon. Have you ever been to the zoo and hear the animals scream? When they scream, their screams are irrational. The noise of animals, the barking of dogs is irrational. But the music of Beethoven is rational. So I see a clear difference between the two. One is like a creation of the image by an image of God. The other one is an animal. And they say the two are equal. Do you really think the two are equal? Or for example, if I am, one time when I was in middle school, we used to sit on these big lunch tables, all of us together, all the middle school boys, and there was one boy who was very isolated. He never talked to people. He was extremely shy. You know, if you look at him, he would look the other way, that kind of thing. So one time he went on a table. The girls all were on a field trip, so he was sitting in the girls' table by himself. And there were like 20 boys by ourselves. And I looked at him and I said, man, poor kid, yeah, and he's sitting by himself. I felt so bad for him. So I told my friend, let's go sit with him. Hold on, man, he's sitting by himself and he's gonna feel depressed. So we went and sat with him and ate lunch, the three of us. We looked funny because we're just three by ourselves. And this boy's mom was in charge of the cafeteria. So she came to us after and she was so thankful for what we did. She said, thank you so much for looking after my son. And we were just trying to be nice, but to her it was full of meaning. It was full of meaning and purpose. So an atheist, or what they would come by and say, what you did actually had no meaning. It was without purpose. And the mother's feeling was without meaning. And the gratitude of the kid was all without meaning. It was all purposeless. It made no difference. Is that something that's really logical? Does that make sense? It makes absolutely no sense to say this world is without meaning. If I went one time, if I made a big sacrifice, one of the most meaningful things we can do in life are sacrifices. If I made a very large sacrifice for an atheist, and he felt it. Say, for example, an atheist had kidney disease, and he was about to die, and he needed a kidney. And so they tested my blood, and we were a perfect match. And they said, Jimmy, if you donate this kidney to your friend, he will live. And I say, okay, I'll do it. And I go to the hospital, and they hook me up, they put me to sleep, they cut me open, and they remove one of my kidneys, and they give it to him, and he's provided with life. What is he going to come back and say to me? He's going to say, thank you so much for the life you have given to me. What you did was more than anything anyone else has ever done. It's full of meaning. A person like that, he might be an atheist and say there's no meaning in the world, and he'll stomp his foot and demand there's no meaning, there's no purpose, that's all random. But if I do something like that for him, he'll realize, you know what? What you did had meaning. It's a reflection. When I say meaning, it's a reflection of something that's outside of us, that exists outside of our minds and it's not something that we invent. And a group of humans didn't get together and say, you know what, there's no God, but we want to make life bearable, we want to make people happy, so let's just say there's meaning in life, and that when you sacrifice for someone, it's something very good, and we'll spread the news. That's not how it is at all. And even if you don't know anything about religion or about God or anything, if someone does something very valuable for you, you will immediately realize this is very good. This is very good. This is very important. And so what I'm actually seeing is a part of God, something that existed before God. And there are things that happen in life also that have to be meaningful. One time I was in the car with my wife, and we were stopped at a red light, and it turned green. So I put my foot, and the car started to move, and all of a sudden I saw this flash of light coming out from the side of my eye. So I immediately slammed on the brakes, and the car stopped, and all of a sudden this truck came just zooming through the intersection. Breaking the red light by far. And I was looking at this truck coming by like 80 miles an hour, and I realized where it passed the intersection was exactly where my car would have been if I didn't stop. And I realized this truck going 80 miles an hour, I would have been killed instantly. I came this close to death, and my wife would have been disabled for life. And it was so shocking. And I sat there thanking God, and thank you, Lord, thank you for life. And then a few months later, I was thinking about that. And I started to have doubts. I said to myself, was this really God saving me? Or was it an accident? Because, my atheist friend would say, Jim, you just got lucky. You just got lucky, man. And you be thankful, but there's no God, whatever. So other people die. So I started thinking, was it really God's providence? And this word was ringing in my mind, God's providence, that he cares for you, he provides. I said, is this God's providence? Or was it an accident? Or was it just chance? Did I just get lucky? And I was thinking and thinking. I was in the car when I was driving, and it really bothered me. And I was pulling between these two answers. Was it providence? Was it chance? Was it providence or chance? And I couldn't figure it out. And I was very upset. And at that exact moment, when I was so stressed out, a car came in front of me, and it had a bumper sticker, and it said, Jesus, eternal providence. I tell you, tears started coming down my eyes, because I felt like, it was something very meaningful. It was not just chance. And this is something, incidents like that happen to all of us. And I've heard many, many stories like that make it impossible to think everything is just by chance. So, in conclusion, when the question of is there meaning in the world or is there a purpose, all you have to do is push someone to the logical conclusion of what they're saying. We're just a bunch of atoms, we're just meaningless matter. Then how can you account for the fact that there is something above humans, which is value and meaning and purpose? Are there any questions or comments? Thank you, everyone.